Good morning. It's 9 a.m., July 18th. Welcome to the Cottington County County and Commission Board meeting for today. Just a heads up, if you do, excuse me, if you do present, you will be on. It's being. It's not taped live. It's being streaming, live streaming. To get the right word there. So you will be on TV. Also, if you have a cell phone, please turn it off or silence it. And if you do get a call, please go out in the Rotunda area to take the call.
I make a motion to
With that
approve the
being said,
agenda.
I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I made the motion to approve
We
the
have
agenda.
a motion by Commissioner Hack.
Second.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Action to approve the minutes of the July 11th meeting. Charlie?
So moved.
We got a motion by Waterman, a second by Van Dusen. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Let's
Aye.
go right
Aye.
on to monthly
Aye.
reports. Milo, facility manager, you're on.
Is that coming through the computer?
I don't know what we got going, but
I thought it was coming through the... We're in good shape. Morning, Milo.
Good morning.
Here's your mic. Sorry about that. Slacking.
Okay, I'll start out with Memorial Park.
sorry.
Thanks. We did have no damage at Memorial Park from the storms on July 11th. I went out to the park that evening. Actually went around it and looked at county facilities to see what we had. To my surprise, Memorial Park hadn't even rained out there at that point. They did receive some rain a little later, but so that worked out rather well for us. The campground itself is having another excellent year. Through June, we have had 3,204 camping nights at the park compared to 3,150 through the same date last year. I expect the July figures to be significantly higher in 2016. It's been borderline zoo out there. The majority of our campers have been happy campers this year. The two most common complaints I have been getting are concerning the mosquitoes and the lack of available camping space. Mosquitoes, it's just, you know, it is what it is. It's in South Dakota, and we're having one of those years. The other comment is the lack of available camping space. If you would like to add about 50 campsites to the park for next year, that would be greatly appreciated by a number of people.
Milo, can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
I was out there and kind of took a look around this past week, and there's some space that's available. I don't know if it's possible for future expansion on the west end of the campground. There's a big open grassy area there.
There is space available, but it's, you know, it comes at a cost.
Sure does.
You know, to add a spot, I think you'd easily be talking about $10,000 a site. You know, would be just an initial figure I would throw out there, as well as, you know, at this point, any more sites is probably going to mean more staff. You know, I think we're kind of stretched to our capacity right now. Mm-hmm. But you know, that's out there. That's the comment that we're getting.
Maybe that's something we could look at in the future if we decide on future expansion. Yeah.
Excuse me, Milo, just a thought. That area that Troy's talking about, could that be limited to campers that have their own, they're self-contained, but also have their own generator, so that it should just be a parking spot?
Yeah, you know, anything's possible, I guess. Your cost largely are going to be a lot the same. I mean, just to develop a site, you know, is the majority of the expense. You know, the electrical, you know, while being a major expense, it's, you know, less than actually developing the site. You know, and then you're running into problems with, we have to be good neighbors also with our folks that live around the lake.
Call a little sooner.
Yeah. We did have some issues with our reservation software early in the season. It kind of gave me a few extra gray hairs and removed another handful or so that I couldn't really afford. But I think we finally have that issue solved. We had numerous occasions where sites were being double booked. Our manager very alertly caught every instance of that happening, as far as I know, and we were able to work around those issues. Currently, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that, you know, we don't have that problem again. Like I said, I think we did find the issue. We haven't had it come up again now for about 5 weeks, so hopefully we're in good shape. I had sent you a couple examples of signs for the park, and I was interested in getting your feedback. You know, one of the, I'll just pass them around again. Here again, we're, you know, working with a couple different companies and getting some, you know, 2 different ideas actually, you know, 2 totally different ways of going about doing it. So there, this first one that I'm sending around, that would be very similar to the signs that were done out at the Extensions complex when we did that new signage out there. That's sandblasted, you know, on a material. The second one I'm passing around, if anyone is, that sign is more similar to what, if you've ever noticed the one out by Cattail Crossing, out there by the golf course, a lot different style of sign. And then actually I have a third one that is a totally different material than the first one, but the, you know, the design itself is kind of similar to what the we put out at the ag building area. You know, so, you know, different materials, different costs. You know, if anyone has any opinions one way or the other, if you'd like me to, you know, to go in one direction or another, I would appreciate that.
I would say, I don't know if any of you have ever paid any attention to the new sign that's out on the SDSU Regional Center. It's a very nice sign, and it's held up very well. You know, it hasn't bleached out. It hasn't. I mean, it looks like the day they put it up there. It has held its color, and it's a very nice sign. And that would be like first example, which was also what estimated at 9,500 or something like that. Or, yeah. They're not illuminated. They're not.
No,
not lit.
There's nothing that is lit. You know, just some ideas that we're kind of throwing out there. We may or may not have some funds available. You know, we'll see how the rest of the year goes, but this may be something we can still incorporate yet this year.
Any thoughts from any of the commissioners?
Thanks for looking into that, Milo. I know I've had a few people comment about the sign out there as you and I have talked.
Yeah.
They would like to see it replaced.
You know, so that's good for now. You know, any comments, please come and see me, and you know, we'll start narrowing this down a little bit. Just another, FYI for signage, I don't know if anyone has noticed, but on Highway 20, out on County Road 19, I had the state installed a new sign out there for us, with just a directional sign for Memorial Park, which has never been there before. So that was very nice of the state to supply that for us. Okay, next up is the courthouse. We haven't had any apparent damage to this structure from the July 11th storm. The auditor staff was on site at the time, working for the city election. They said it was very noisy in here, between hail and wind and rain hitting the north-facing windows and also the dome overhead. Got everyone's attention, but not noticed any. We did a self-inspection up there and didn't, no broken windows, no significant dents to speak of. So I think we did good there. I do have a representative from Carr Construction coming in to assess the building in the next couple weeks. They specialize in exterior restoration for our type of building. We are in need of some window framing being resealed, tuck pointing being done in some areas. So they're going to come and visit the facility and give us an assessment on where we're at there. So I'll have some more information coming to you perhaps August, maybe first part of September. The electronic locking system has been installed and is in operation. It is working as expected. It's been a long time project that has basically been completed now. We do have National Night Out celebration coming up on August 1st. I suspect you'll probably be hearing some more about that from Sheriff Howell. Since my last report, we did have a wedding that was held out on the grounds of the courthouse on a Saturday. It was actually probably about a month ago. Was a successful event. Everybody was pleased with how that turned out. Detention center. Here again, we have not found any damage to this structure from that storm that come through. In visiting with Mr. Sutton, we had some of that good-sized hailstones were found around here in the parking lot after the storm. So,
on your pickup too, I understand.
Yeah, pickup took a pretty good stone bath. We do have an HVAC project lined up for this month in the detention center. This is mainly for monitoring purposes in an area that was not included in the Johnson Control Project a number of years ago. Expect that to take place probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We have had our fair share of bumps and bruises over there the last month, but nothing that we haven't been able to handle. Ag building. It's been yes.
On the detention center, I happened to be at a meeting there last week, and I just stepped in the kitchen, not to nibble or not to beg for anything, but it was ridiculously hot in the kitchen. And
kitchens tend to get that way.
Yeah. Is there any way we could get some air conditioning into that particular area?
If you have enough money, we can do anything. There is no air conditioning in that kitchen area.
I know it's hot.
Why that happened, I can't even guess. It's a very congested area. We have looked into it. Not a simple thing to do over there. If we're gonna stay there for a long time, it might be worth trying to come up with a solution, but it is going to be an expensive one. That's what I can tell you at this point.
No new technologies that'll help us out there, huh?
No, not right now. Okay. Let's see. Past that page. Ag building, like I said, it's been pretty much business as usual out there. There haven't been many weekends that the building hasn't had some kind of activity in it. We have had a lot of auction sales this summer, but we did have a noticeable drop in livestock shows this year. As you may or may not be aware, the prospect show, 4-H prospect show, was not held this year, and we only had one livestock show. Usually we have a string of 3 or 4 that come in all about the same time during the month of June, and we actually only had one show this year. I believe it was a junior, I won't say.
Angus.
Was it junior Angus?
Yep.
Okay. So that's been a little different out there this year, or this summer. I have been attending pod meetings over the last 2 months. This for a point of dispensing for an exercise that will be held at the Ag Building in October for the benefit of our new members. This pod program is a program that is set up to dispense up to 50,000 doses of medicine or vaccinations, in a short amount of time in the event some form of emergency may come up in our region. The Ag Building is one site in Watertown that has been chosen as an operations center for this type of incident response. Actually, the exercise this fall is going to be for flu shot vaccine. I believe they're targeting individuals under the age of 18. Mainly, this is an exercise, in preparation, so we can see, what we're capable of doing, and they will make corrections, on the fly. So, in the event a big event comes up, we'll be better prepared. Okay.
Thank you.
The storage building out there is well underway. The framework is completely up. I suspect they will start putting up sheet metal or steel possibly this week, weather permitting. We did sustain some hail damage out at the Ag Building location. I have not met with our insurance adjuster yet. Based on personal experience, I suspect it may be significant. We have a rather large shingled square footage of roof out there that obviously took a beating. So we'll see what our adjuster thinks, and I'll keep you updated on that as it happens. West Nile virus prevention, I'll only touch on this very briefly, as I know Steve has been keeping you informed. Coddington County was awarded $4,319 in grant money from the Department of Health for the fight against West Nile disease. These funds will be used throughout the county for mosquito control and monitoring. This helps pay for our equipment, the chemical and supplies, and labor costs. Just a little information, a total of over $499,000 was awarded across the state for this program. The maintenance department itself, we do have some specialized training coming up on how to deal with some specific infectious diseases. I'm working with Safety Benefits to get this training put on. When we get the details ironed out, we will be including invitations to the jail staff also. A lot of times this is where these situations seem to pop up, and we need to do what we can, number one, to protect our employees, the first line, the people that are going to come in contact with this kind of stuff, as well as the rest of the population over there. We do have an impending retirement coming up. Robert Beyer has indicated his last day with Coddington County will be August 31st. So I would ask your permission to advertise to fill that opening. And I have been over that with Mr. Satterley already. We're just, at this point, we're just need your blessing to get the ball rolling on that. That's it for my report. I'm anxious for any questions or comments you may have.
Do we need a motion?
Yeah, you do.
Is there a motion?
Your mic's on. Second.
Yeah, I didn't have that on. I would make a motion that we allow Milo to start the process for the new hire position.
Second that motion.
Motion by Hatton, second by Van Duzen. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, do we need
Yes.
to put that on the agenda, or is that okay to sit? It's
You're not
okay.
hiring anybody, you're just
Okay.
starting the advertising
Yeah.
process, so I don't
We're
think you
okay.
need to
Okay.
agendize it.
Any other discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. I did have a chance this past week to sit down and review the contract with SGSU. And you got the revised contract. Cindy, did you get it?
I sent it to Carla Troutman, she's forwarding it on to whoever she needs to.
Okay. The only,
Thank you. I forgot to mention that in my report.
Yeah.
But, Cindy's been working on that.
yeah, just for the commissioners' information, the only changes that we made to it was that for the new storage area, we increased the agreed upon amount, and I think it's $200 a month is what it was. If you, I know that's what it was, and we did separate that in the contract. It seemed that Carla or SCSU wanted to have that separated, just in case someday, some reason, they didn't need the storage anymore, we would know how to separate that out, so it wasn't one bulk amount. The other one, and this is, if you send it out, that's fine already, is we were going to put another line in there for a signature from a local individual here. Right now, I think it's Board of Regents.
Oh, I changed that.
Good, well.
Well, no, I changed it from Board of Regents to SDSU.
Okay, good, all right, that's fine, that's what we needed. But that's done, and that new payment will begin August 1st.
September 1st, I believe.
I think it was September 1st.
September 1st.
Right.
Oh, yeah, they needed it by August 1st. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yes.
Good. All right. That's all I
Mr.
have.
Chairman, what's the length of that contract?
20 years, I believe, is what we started out. If my memory serves me correct. Maybe I'm correct. I think it's indefinite. I think it goes on and on and on.
Yeah, I don't believe there was
I
an
don't
end
think
date.
there's I think what we amortized that out so that the addition would be paid off in 20
Oh, wait.
years.
Let's see. The term shall commence on September 1st, 2017, and shall continue until September 2018 unless otherwise modified or terminated. Unless otherwise terminated, SDSU shall have the option to renew this lease for an additional consecutive one-year periods at such rental rates as agreed upon by the party. Either party may terminate the lease upon 30-day written notice after the expiration of the first year.
So it's continuing, renewed every year. I might just add that they're bringing in a couple more new people, and they'll be up here to introduce themselves when they find out who they are, because they don't even know who they are. But they do have a full house out there again. I think they have 12 specialists out there or something like that again. So it's going very well. They're doing fine. Sorry to steal some
I'm
thunder
going to
here.
forward the lease agreement to all of you.
Okay, if that's all for me, I will
Any other questions for
I will
Milo?
sit
Anything
down
else?
and wait for more.
What's that?
No, not yet.
Are you ready to talk about the budget?
We can. I'm also on the agenda for the power outage policy too. I didn't know if you want to start addressing that or call me up later. It's up to you.
Well, why don't, what number is that? Where are we
Number
at?
9.
Number 9.
Yeah, we can do that.
Why don't we go ahead as long as you're here, and let's do that. The power outage. It's a action to adopt a procedure during power outages in the courthouse. We do have a policy, and it was in your packet last week, and I think we sent it back to Milo just to identify some specific questions that we had. And did you have a chance to do
Yes,
that?
I made the addition that the sheriff's department will be responsible for doing a sweep of the building to ensure that the public has safely gotten out of the building. That was the addition that you had requested to be put in.
There was an email from Brad this morning. Did you see that?
No.
Asking if the auditor's office would take the responsibility for number 4, calling the utility department, because usually in the event of a power outage, sheriff's office and staff are busy with other events at the time, taking calls, and I said we would have no problem calling the utilities if they would
Okay.
give us
Alright.
the answer we need.
Do you need that in the procedure policy?
Yep. Yeah, you
Should
should.
we add it?
Yeah. Because if it says who does what, I definitely think we do.
Okay,
Yeah.
what I'll do is I'll entertain a motion with that one amendment. Is that permissible to do that?
I'll make that motion.
And Lee, was it you that made the motion?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
make that motion.
All right, motion by Lee, second
Second
by
it.
Van Dusen.
I said, I'll second
Brenda?
it.
Any more discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Milo won't have to come back in front of us with that
No,
addition to
No.
we'll make the adjustments and
Perfect.
So let's take a look at his budget then.
Now,
What
just
else we got you up here? Is you ready?
One more note on this policy. You know, if this policy is adopted, you will have to get the American Legion and the state officials on board, so we don't have any confusion with this policy. You know, I mean, we would require, I'm assuming we're going to require them to close their offices also?
I would, if the
Or
courthouse,
we'll advise them of what our policy is.
Yeah.
And
You know, this kind of goes back to our snow removal policy,
yeah.
you know.
So
you
now,
know, when-
let's not get up and walk out of here and wonder who's going to do that. Who's going to do that? Does it come from the auditor's office, or it comes from me, or whoever, to inform them of the policy change?
Who is the liaison for this nurses?
The liaison for the American Legion?
No, for the nurses downstairs, because that would be the other state office, right?
That'd be me.
well, besides the court offices upstairs
Yeah.
and the American Legion.
I don't, do they have a liaison?
I don't think they have a
We don't
liaison.
have liaison.
No,
No,
I don't
they
think
don't.
so.
They're
No.
they're on their own.
You have an inter-office communication system here?
not with the state. I mean, just email.
Sure.
I say we email.
Should we depend on that then for their notification of a change?
You want to handle that, Cindy? You want me to send an email out to those offices and
Either one of us, we can talk
I
about
can-
it later.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
deal with it?
All
Once
right.
we get it perfected, we will
Okay.
let them know what our policy is. It is our building.
All right.
Do we have anything that specifies that as far as in the contracts or anything, or is that something that should be added?
There
that-
is no contract with any of the state offices. That we did have a problem when we closed on a snow day.
We did.
Opened early, or open late.
Opened
Open
late.
late.
We
Yeah,
had a
open late.
problem with one of the state offices insisting that they needed to be in this building, and I mean, we closed for a reason. So I don't know, maybe that's another policy we need to address at a later time.
Yeah.
This one just deals with power outages,
Right.
but there was a problem.
There was a problem.
I'm just
last
thinking,
winter.
we need
Yes.
some clarification on when this
If
building
this
is
building
closed.
is closed, they should not be
The
trying.
expectations
I
of.
mean, closed
yes.
for safety reasons, snow, moving snow.
Right.
They should not be trying to access the building.
Right. I just think maybe we need some clarification on that so we don't continue to have these issues going into the future.
And that was just one office, I believe, that we
Yes.
had that problem with.
One office, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, which budget would you like to start with?
What you, it's your call.
Well, on top of my file pile here is ag building.
What page is that one?
Which one?
The
Ag
ag
building?
building, it's towards the middle to the back.
What page number? I can show it on the screen.
Starting with page 55, is that the one?
Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, it's page
Yes,
55.
Page 55, yeah.
Milo's got a number budgets for you to review. Page 55 is the ag building.
Go. Got it? Everybody have it?
Yep.
56?
Okay, it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't feel the need to go through line by line unless you want to. Total personnel services is down slightly from 123,000 to 118,000 and change. Primarily, that is due to the change in health insurance premiums over what I had budgeted last year, versus what I budgeted this year. Other than that, no major changes. Any questions on personnel services? Okay. Total other current expenditures, we have just a slight increase going from 93,885 to 95,285. Here again, we have everything spelled out on page 3 and 4 of the handout that I sent out. We basically, insurance remains the same. We're just slightly higher in ag building repair and maintenance, slightly higher in supplies. Utilities are fairly close. So that's, like I said, that's all spelled out. Those are basically day-to-day expenses through there. We do have under ag building capital outlay, which is number 432. We do have a significant decrease from 194,000 down to 82,000. That would reflect the cost of the parking lot, I believe. Oh no, that was last year. That would reflect building the storage building this year and not having a similar project next year. So our total budget expenditure decreases from 412,363 to 296,789.
Okay, any questions on the ag building?
Any questions on that one?
All right.
Some of the capital outlay projects included in there are things that have been pointed out in our capital forecast plan. So we are intending on replacing a number of furnaces and that type of thing that are dated. But
Milo, just
I
a
do-
quick question.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Charlie. On 426 ag building supplies, looks like it went up about 3,000. I'm just always curious about how that goes up, or what's.
actually, that's our supply line item. Basically, is paper goods and cleaning supplies and gasoline. There is an increase in that area. We are planning on doing some floor sealing in one of the expo buildings and in the echo chamber area that would be outside the classroom. So that's that increase primarily is in the cleaning solution chemicals.
Okay.
Just to comment, we had a meeting last night up at the Extension Center, and I noticed only one person brought a long sleeve shirt, but the air conditioning works extremely well.
If we could just get that in the kitchen now at the jail.
We could sublease it as a locker.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, Milo. Next one you have is what?
The next one on my list is West Nile virus prevention.
All right.
You'll have to listen closely on this one. This is going to go really fast.
Which page is
Anyone,
that? What's the top right-hand page number?
What? Yeah,
Page number 40.
40, all right.
40.
Back us up.
Here's your two.
All right. Everybody find it?
Yes.
Okay, this budget request for 2018 is exactly the same item by item, all the way through from 2017. And this is a relatively small budget with a total of $8,532.
Okay, any questions? What's the next one you have?
The next one on is County Park, page number 53. Okay, the first section there is total personnel services, which is almost unchanged. There's just a slight increase there, which would be the, I believe I put in a 3% raise in wages. The total other current expenditures, we have about a $12,000 increase. Goes from $96,865 to $108,800. We have a bit of an increase in insurance. I do have about a $12,000 increase for repair and maintenance. And back in my notes, a couple pages, I have had that kind of spelled out for repair and maintenance. The major project for next year would be some building repairs and siding replacement. And that come with about a $15,000 price tag. I also have $10,000 in that to have building number 4 actually removed. We've quit renting that building just due to the shape it's in. It's kind of beyond repair. Don't feel like.
Now, which building is that?
That building would be directly behind the garage at the manager's office.
Okay. Right.
It has kind of a lean-to on two sides of it with, it's not stone, but some form of precast stuff that's.
Just a curiosity, Milo,
Yes.
how old is that building?
I couldn't tell you that. Something that we inherited from the YMCA, when we took over in '74.
I mean, not knowing the history, I was just curious.
And I would have to say probably goes back to the 50s. Anyway, I'm guessing.
Well, that's kind of what I was guessing, late 40s, early 50s, but I thought you might have the history a little on it. Thank you.
It's not a popular building. People don't like it when they get in there. So for that reason, we quit. One of the reasons we quit using it.
Milo, the roof on the bathrooms on the west end of the park there, looks like they're old wooden shingle roof.
Old shakes.
Is that still in good shape?
It's not leaking.
Okay.
Oh, that's a plus.
I looked at it and it looked like it had been pretty
they
weathered.
Look really bad.
Yeah.
But actually we've been up in the attic, looking for sunlight coming through, and
Well, that's okay. It's not
Yeah.
leaking. That's
So-
good. All right.
I think one thing that needs to be noted when we look at the Memorial Park budget, and I had some communication with one of the park goers here a week or so ago, and they had some good suggestions about things that we should be doing or what we could do, but I had to reiterate the fact that we seldom, or to my knowledge, we've never made money in Memorial Park, and it's there primarily as a service, and it's a beautiful park. I mean, it's a diamond in the rough out there, but I don't think there's too many parks that make money. They're just one of those things that it's a service. Now, it'll be interesting to look at the end of the year, this year, because we're having a good year as to where we came out. But when you talk about adding another 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever campsites, you could just about figure out easily how much more money we're going to lose by doing that. I mean, it's a fact of life. And I know some people have a misunderstanding. They think we can put all kinds of playground equipment out there for whatever age and whatever, but every time we do stuff like that, it has to meet certain standards, and all of a sudden that slide and that set of swings or whatever it is $30,000, and so it's an expensive, and upkeep is expensive out there too. So, but it's a very, very nice park, and it's good to see that it's being used.
You know, one way to look at it, and actually I discussed this with Doug a number of months ago. There's a formula out there which I am not privy to, you know, but the State Game Fish and Parks, I would say, probably has this type of formula. How much money comes into your area, you know, for one camping night for one family? And you look at it that way, a lot of dollars come into Cottington County because we have, you know, 96 sites rented out at Memorial Park. You know, that money doesn't necessarily come to the Cottington County Commission through campers fees, but you know, those folks bring a lot of money in, you know, buying, and I can tell you from personal experience, I mean, they come to Watertown and buy campers and boats and cars and groceries and gas, and you know, so it's a very good thing for the community, while maybe not necessarily for Cottington County.
I spoke with a gentleman this past week who was camping out there, and he was here for a family reunion from Minnesota. He absolutely loved the park. It was the first time he'd ever stayed out there. Absolutely loved it, and said him and his family would be back a lot to camp out there. So, you know, it's good to hear that stuff.
And we've made great changes out there over the last 15 years, you know, just in the infrastructure itself. Yeah, there's always more we can do, but, you know, reality of life, it costs money for that kind of stuff.
Cindy, do you have what the revenue from last year was from park fees?
I can find it.
$140,000 range.
Let me look quick.
I've only heard one, and it really wasn't a negative as far as the new bike trail going through there. It's that, and what it was is that it ends on the west end, and there's 20, 30 feet of grass between the street, and maybe in this coming year is something that we could work with the city to find out if we could, and I understand why that happens, and we don't really need to talk about that here, but it's just one of those deals where I think we can get it fixed.
Yeah.
I think
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. That should have been in my monthly report. I have been in contact with folks from the city, you know, and there's something they're working on also, and they had wondered if there's anything they need to do to get permission from us to finish that trail, and I said, no, we've already granted permission to run the trail through the park.
Yep.
They're just working on grants, I'm guessing, to try to help finish it, because it's not,
sure.
that's what was used previously.
I've heard the same comment, Myron.
I thought maybe that bike trail had been designed and by this fellow that I know that was a civil engineer. He was the one that built the bridge to nowhere. This was kind of like the bike trail to nowhere. The bike trail ends.
The bike trail really does add to the park.
Yeah.
You know, it really does make it nicer for people to walk through there.
My report shows
get it
just over 112,000. So if there's a difference between your numbers and mine, it might be this is the actual money that was tracked from January 1 through December 31st. You might have some different figures. Money that was collected but not turned in. So, yeah.
I'm going off memory there.
Yes.
So.
Yep. So I have 112,000 for 2016.
So you look at the difference there, the amount expended in 2016, is that what that would have been, revenue for
217,
2016?
yeah.
Yeah.
And the budget was 217,000, almost 218,000, and what did we?
112.
112.
There's a, you can see, we don't make money on that baby, but it's a beautiful place.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and another way of looking at it, I consider it almost like two parks out there. I mean, we have a campground and we have a picnic area. There's a large portion of that park has no revenue, you know, because it is a picnic area. It still needs mowed, and, you know, we need
Yep.
to supply picnic tables. We have to have a man hired to take care of part of that
Yeah.
park, you know, so.
Families do utilize that for reunions
You know,
and such.
in a
so-
sense, you know, the campground itself probably holds its own, you know, the rest of the park that is what cost us money.
Actually, there's a report in the back of your budget folders that it's a revenue budget report, and it will show you the camping fees collected
Okay.
for the last year and a couple prior years, so you can compare those. It's the very last report in your folder. Yes, yep.
All right, anything else for Milo in the park?
Overall, my budget for the park has went down for this year. For 2017, it was $229,000. The amount requested for 2018 would be $189,000. Part of the reasoning for that, we did have money in the budget this year for a fish cleaning station, and that project has went away. So there's the primary reason for the decrease.
All right, anything else? You have one left? One to go?
My folder is empty. Did I do?
You did not do courthouse. I don't think.
Did we do the ag building?
We did ag building,
Yep.
and government building would be the courthouse.
Yeah,
And I did not bring
here.
that information up with me.
There it is.
Okay.
Page
Thank you,
16.
Cindy.
16 is a page.
What page number?
16.
16.
I don't know who put all the page numbers on, but thank you.
I'm sure you can thank Cindy for that one. Personnel services, you know, we are showing an increase there of 14,000. That would be due to I did a 3% increase on wages, and I also figured in some retirement costs that I had anticipated to come up next year, which actually one of them is coming up this year.
Payout of vacation and sick leave.
Yeah, payout for vacation sick leave. So, yeah, my crystal ball was just a little bit foggy on there. I missed that by six months. Other current expenditures, we show a decrease from 182,550 to 174,824. Again, it's a slight decrease. We have about a 10,000 decrease in repair and maintenance. Utilities remain pretty stable there. Also, you know, a couple pages back, I do have a breakdown on the repair and maintenance side of the issue. It's, you know, most of that stuff is just year-to-year things that we expect. Snow removal, electrical repairs, that kind of thing. We do have machinery and equipment. This year I have nothing slated for expenditure. And we have the capital outlay, which is debt principal and debt interest. That would be on the Johnson Control Design Build project.
And we do have 2 more years of that. 2 more years, 18 and 19. We will be just about done in February of 2020. So we'll have 2 more years to budget for that.
Okay.
Good.
So that's total budget. We show I have about a $7,000 increase, 529,815 for 17, and we're increasing to 536,523 for 18.
Any questions for Milo?
Thank you, Cindy.
Yep.
Thank you, Milo. A lot of budgets to take care of, and we appreciate your efforts.
Thanks, Milo.
Well done.
Thank you.
Are you going to be in your office? I need to stop and visit with you when we get in here, okay? All right. Thank you. All right, let's go back to, where are we at on the agenda here? Highway Superintendent, Rick? Good morning. Good morning, Rick.
Morning,
Good
Rick.
morning.
As far as the monthly report, we're about the same as we have been doing for the last month. We're still chip sealing, we're gravel surfacing when we can't chip seal. As far as the physical work at the highway department, I'm also working on these big grants, putting together projects, hopefully funded in the future by the big program. In fact, I have 2 items on the agenda today. Be a notice to bidders for epoxy deck seals or polymer deck seals on these 3 bridges that are our big funded program.
Should we do that right now?
Yeah, we can.
Let's do that right now.
Yeah.
And take care of that, okay?
I'll make a motion that we approve the notice to bidders.
It's in your packet, notice
Second.
to bidders. And,
Be item number 4 on the
yeah,
agenda.
item number 4 on the agenda, action to authorize notice to bidders for the epoxy seal. And we have a motion by Brenda, second by Waterman. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Gotcha, Rick.
A little information on that. I was rather surprised how quickly we got this to this state notice to bidders. In fact, the DOT is kind of surprised that we got it to this point this quickly. Give a lot of credit to Yultig Consultants, Brad Stanger. He's worked with the DOT for years, retired from them. So he's familiar with the procedures, and he helped to get this project to a bid letting really quickly.
Good.
Next item I have, item number 5, and here's another big improvement grant, and it's a resolution authorizing me to submit applications for 3 big projects. Basically, it's 2 bridges on North County Road 11, Old 81, and 1 on County Road 7 that I've discussed here. We've got them to the point now we need submit the resolution to give me permission to submit the applications for these projects.
That's in my neck of the woods, so I'm going to take the opportunity to make that motion myself. It's in my area. Is there a second?
I would second that.
Okay, Commissioner Waterman, second. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
A little information on this. The way this bridge big program is working out, it will take several years to get these bridges to construction if we go through the complete big program. This is for pre-engineering. Basically, they look at the bridges, they decide if we can get by with the box culvert or whatever, and hopefully we'll get a grant for it. If these grants are not approved, my suggestion would be to the commission to use county dollars and do the preliminary engineering and possibly even the design cost for designing a box culvert, and then apply for a big grant to complete the project. And you're much more likely to get the project and you'll be able to get it through in a matter of a couple, 3 years. Whereas if we go through the entire big program from pre-engineering to construction, we're looking at 8 years or longer down the road. So it's just my opinion, the counties, not just Cottington, but the counties in South Dakota are going to have to step up and start paying for some of these engineering costs in order to get these projects done.
And we used to in the past, but there was a cost share, right?
Right, and there's still a 20% cost share on
To
the
do
big
it on
grant
a-
if we get the big dollars for the construction of these projects. We still have to come up with a match, and in fact, some counties now are actually increasing their match to get these projects. Everything you do increases your chance of getting the grant. I know Minnehaha County is offering 25% on a couple of big Sioux River bridges, hoping that they'll get the grant, and I think their chances of getting the grant are pretty good because of that.
Good.
Another thing, Cottington County, and I mentioned before, is the wheel tax on these grants. When I submit these, we're still at $2. So on these pre-engineering grants, I'm not 100% confident that we're going to get them. We need to put in the applications and see if we get them or not. But that wheel tax per dollar wheel will make a big difference on applications like this.
Yep.
It's by a point system, so as many points as you can check off is your a better opportunity to receive them.
Right, and the wheel tax is 10 points out of 100. And by going to $5 per wheel, we would go from getting 2 points to getting at least 6 points. So there's a big difference in it.
There is, yep. Okay,
And that's all I have on that, and monthly report, if you'd like to go through my budget.
yeah, let's get her done.
Rick, I have one question. Now that they have taken the detour off, did we remove the 45-mile-an-hour speed
Not
limit?
at this point. I think we should wait until the whole detour is open myself, because there's still people that are coming, and I went out and watched it. There's still people that are coming from the east, Minnesota plates and so forth, tourists, and they're still going
The other way. They're not
the
going
other
through
way,
Goodwin.
right? And I think it's because of the detour signs are still on the east. They're possibly have been over the route before and know the route, and they're
Still
still
utilizing it?
using it. So
Okay.
my suggestion is wait until the whole road is opened up before we take them
How
out.
far is it open?
Over to Goodwin.
Yes. You can get on 212 to Goodwin
So
now.
if you went to that far, then you'd have to go south?
Yeah, you have to go south
Just
down
through
to
Good-
just north of Bemis, and then you go east again over to State Highway 15.
Or you can take that first road before you get to Bemis, and then you can get over to 15 on that one
Right,
also.
yeah, it's a mile north
Yep.
of Bemis.
Oh, that one. Yes,
Yeah,
we're talking
that's
about the
road
same
that
one.
goes
Okay.
over to
Yep,
Tunerville,
correct.
or Altamont actually,
Yep,
and then you go
Altamont.
north back to Tunerville.
It's been painful, but it's a nice road.
It is.
Yeah. All right, where are you gonna start?
I'll just start at the top
What
on the personnel services.
What page you got? What page are you on? Up in the
70
right-hand corner.
71.
71.
All right.
On the personnel expenses, it's actually down a little bit. If you notice, it went from 1,155,000 down to 1,114,000. And the main reason for that is I've had recent retirement of guys that have been with the county for a lot of years, and we have 3 new employees lower. So it's actually gone down 3.2%, but we are fully staffed and everything. It's not that we reduced any employees, and down the line, I guess the only increases are in insurance, my estimate in insurance. On other current expenses, that actually went up about $200,000 there, and the reason being in line item repair and maintenance went up, and parts and supplies went up. And the reason those went up, the biggest part of that is mill and overlay on County Road 14, 4th Avenue between Watertown and Lake Compesca. There's a 3.1 mile stretch there is proposed to do a mill and overlay, and that's where the most of that increase came in those 2 line items. Capital outlay, I'm showing a large decrease there, $624,000 last year to $123,000 this year. The reason being, last year we had those motor graders that had to be replaced. We've got new ones. They're there for 7 years. The 2 items I have is a sign truck and a service truck for hauling fuel and so forth. Amounts to that $123,000. So that is looks like a big decrease, but that's the reason for it. Snow removal, I still only put $85,000 in there. Typically, we use a lot of that for mowing, fall mowing. On the capital outlay, there's an increase there, and there again, that's part of the money, part of that increase is going to that 4th Avenue project. Wheel tax is the same. And the bottom line, I guess, showing a budget. $4,091,347, which is $155,026 less than 2017 for a decrease in the budget of about 3.62%. And there again, that is due to the motor grader purchases, the main reason why the bottom line is less than what it was in 2017.
When you talk about those motor graders, we have them on or you have them on a schedule every so many years. So this year we don't have any. Next year will there be some again, or how many years out until we have to budget for that?
All of them are on a 7-year cycle now. So the first 3 that we put on a 7-year cycle, they've still got over 4 years, just about 5 years left to go. And the ones, from last year were 7 years also. So
got a little ways out.
Got a ways to go for them, okay. And that 5-year buyback has worked so well for Coddington up to this point. Hopefully,
still well.
It was a jump. We always used to do it for 5 years, but it started looking like we could go longer. And the company that we've been dealing with, when they want them back, they want them like new motor graders. So they watch them like a hawk. In fact, they're electronically monitored. There's times where a light will go on in the motor grader indicating a fault code, and within minutes I get a call from Sioux Falls that their computer in Sioux Falls says, hey, that motor grader is showing an irregular RPM, or the emergency brake was put on 3 or 4 times before the machine came to a complete halt. And that was actual happening, and I contacted the operator, and there was a long pause when I talked to him, and it was like, how do you know? But it turned out it was just a faulty switch. He wasn't doing it, but yeah, the information shows up, and they monitor it closely. I think they take excellent care of them. So.
All right, any more questions for Rick? I think this is, Rick has the record. He has the largest budget in the county, so he's done very well with it in the past. And any other questions, any comments? Seeing, no, we don't need to vote on it yet.
How's the new roof project coming?
The material is stockpiled on the west side of the shed. I talked to him end of last week, and he said 2 weeks. He's working out at the airport on a big project. He's finishing up out there, and then he's going to come and go to work on ours.
I do have, when you're working on the big grant, you did add in that bridge that's down there south of the Bemis Town.
The 5-year plan, yeah. That 5-year plan has to be submitted later this fall. Okay. And that will be put back in for
down the road, but
2021, I believe, is what we talked about, putting it in there for action on that.
Sounds
Rick, did any of your facilities or vehicles or anything sustain damage in the hailstorm?
My pickup that I drive did. I haven't got the dollar back. I've taken it to Crockers for an estimate, windshield and hail damage. Okay. But as far as facilities, all of our shops are metal roof at this point, and no windows. Myself personally, in the southwest part of Watertown, had 5 windows.
Wow. Yeah, I think that was the hardest hit part of the city.
Yeah, I think it was too. There was tennis ball sized stones, and that was down in Milo's neighborhood too. I think Milo lost some windows too, but right down Broadway and Maple, there was quite a few tennis ball sized stones that I see.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Rick. All right. Steve, weed soup. Weed soup. Weed supervisor. I better make that clear. You think that we're brewing up lunch here?
Well, good morning. I have a little bit of a short of material here. I'll be using my phones. My car is locked at the water treatment center running. with the stuff in it.
How did you get here?
Is the air conditioner on?
Yes.
Okay.
It probably is getting brought here by now, but
Do you want to use a stand chair? You sure can.
yeah, if I can.
There you go. There you go.
All right, to start out with, let me get my notes up that I do have that I did put on the phone. Okay, currently, as of this year, so we pretty well finished up the spraying and back in about the June 25th, I believe, 23rd. More or less, we were down to the point of the state roads. I had done the shoulders on the state roads, but as far as in the state roads itself for the Kubota, I had quit because the governor had released all state roads for hanging, and I didn't want to have the risk of having chemicals on there as soon as that. We are going to go out and do some spot spraying. There's a couple spots, like in the cattails and so like that have some thistles. I did inform them that we'd be out here shortly doing that. But otherwise, as far as stats, we did about 324 hours of spraying so far this year with 2,160 miles, 842 gallons of 2,4-D used this spring with 102.5 gallons of Tordon and 6.25 gallons of glyphosate so far. As far as past, the notes that I do have, we had gotten the hemlock moths last week, Thursday, for the biocontrol release. Went out and released, we had 53 releases that we released. It was spread through 4 counties, through Clark, Connington, Hamlin, and Dual. I was going to turn around and have my tablet and be able to show you a few pictures, but being that is locked in the vehicle, I guess I won't be doing that this month. And also, been doing had a few calls and stuff like that on a couple weed complaints. It's been pretty minor. Couple calls on some possibly damaged complaints. Still waiting back. They wanted to claim, but haven't called me back yet to sign the paper, so we'll see what happens. A lot of it looked like a lot of drought stress too. And so now with the rains, it's looking better, but there's a couple small little spots. So.
With your new technology, though, you can pinpoint when you were there.
Yep, I can pinpoint and where I've been at, and actually these spots do show up on the logger where it was. We just spot sprayed, but these couple spots do it. It actually turned around, and the winds were only 7 mile an hour, but it was just enough to cause it a little bit to pull in about 10 feet. So, but it's pretty minor. I'll have all that stuff next month at my report and so and I'll bring the tablet and show you a couple of things there. As far as the mosquitoes go, got the traps put out here a week ago. Been collecting some of them, collected a couple of them for 2 days in a row straight. I do have a picture here that I wanted to show everybody, and granted I would like to have it up there on the screen, but I did have the pile with me.
Oh wow.
And it was in a styrofoam cup about that size. I want you to about estimate how many you think that's in that pile.
A lot. All of them.
Well, it was a trap that was collected in Wallace last week. It was a 1-day trap collected. There was close to 6,700 mosquitoes total in a 1-day trap.
You sat and counted all of them?
Yeah. It was 10 hours worth of counting.
Overtime.
There's no machine you could just put them in like a coin counter.
Like a conveyors?
What you got to do is you got to separate the ones out, and especially the Culex. That's the one that would carry the West Nile. There was 420 some culex.
Oh, wow.
You know, usually the trigger that the city of Watertown or Aberdeen and Sioux Falls that triggers for the spray is 10 culex a night. 400 and some is quite a lot. That was one night in Wallace.
Do you have a trap at Memorial Park?
That trap is a city.
City trap,
Yeah,
okay.
that's a city trap.
Okay.
And they wonder,
And
people are complaining about mosquitoes at Memorial Park. You wonder why, you know?
well, and actually the traps here in Watertown have been showing less. And one of the reasons is because they larvicide in all the ponds and so that, and it does help with a huge reduction.
Because they're drier up by Wallace, so.
They're drier by Wallace. They did have a huge rain back in June, and I think that's what triggered it. And it had a huge rain, so there was water, and then it got warm. And it was perfect incubation for them to hatch.
Have you mentioned to
Did
them
I see
about,
that picture of that pile of mosquitoes?
have you mentioned to them about the larvicide that they could possibly
I
use
have
as well?
not mentioned to them. I wanted to go to one of the city councils.
Right.
I'm just gonna-
Kransberg has larvicide pellets. I guess I found out Henry also has it. They have done some treating, but they don't treat enough areas where they had.
Can't zoom in.
I'm checking out our live streaming here for people that are watching the meeting, and take a look. We'll see how good it's coming in on the live streaming.
Yeah, probably not very good
I'm
from
trying
that
to point,
distance,
where's the cameras at here?
but in the back corner there.
We'll point it right to the camera.
Maybe you
So take a
can,
look at that.
It looks like a black blob.
Steve,
Yeah.
It's
It's
just a big black spot.
But as far as fogging, so far, Henry's been fogged once, Kransberg once, Wallace, Florence, and Park twice so far this year. Our collection that we did get here last week, Friday, and so that, the numbers in there are quite a bit less. So I think due partially to a little bit of the weather has made a big factor. Plus it got dry enough again that a lot of the nuisance ones have not been able to hatch.
do we use larvicide out at Memorial Park?
No, we have not. I know in the past Milo said he had put it out in the ponds out there. And so currently
that would
right
help.
now they're kind of dry again, but it would be a good thing to probably put some larvicides out there.
How do you spray that slough area with
Well,
the cattails and
with the
stuff?
larvicides, what it is pellets,
not a
you
slough,
shoot it out there.
Okay.
That's the
Do they hatch
larvicide.
constantly throughout
So-
the season?
Yeah, once there's rain and so that, the one thing about it is the nuisance ones will probably be in that area, but like the culex, they like tires, small little buckets, anything that's small little containers that has water. That's their main.
And you should maybe explain when you do spray, there is a little bit of a trick to when it needs to be done, and then it's only the ones that are flying, so if they're not out and about, you're not going to get them.
Yes, that's correct. What it is you usually turn around and go out towards evening, 9 o'clock or better. The culex, the ones that carry the West Nile, usually are a little later, towards closer to between 10 to midnight. And the 80s Vexen, which is the nuisance ones, usually around 9 o'clock or so, just as dusk in the evening. And when you go out and fog, you go out towards that time and you want fairly decent night, and especially with winds that are only about 5 miles an hour or so. If it gets a little bit too strong, it blows across too fast. If it's too light, it won't hang and drift across. Usually you like to have it about a block width is what you do. And only thing that the adulticide does is kills what's flying. Now, not all mosquitoes come out at night. They only come out when they want to feed. So there might be a bunch of them that are in the shrubs and just hanging in there. And a lot of times they'll be underneath the leaves and stuff. So it's only when, that the adulticide does is when they're out flying.
Getting back to that larvicide, thank you. at Memorial Park, did you say a good time to put that in is just before it would rain?
Well, you could put it out there in the season. Usually some of the larvicide has a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, depending on what you want to do, window of being active. So, and then after that, usually diminishes. So.
Any questions for Steve? The only comment I would have you heard or have you, glyphosate is getting hit pretty hard right now. There's been some states that have banned the use of it. And so anybody uses it, we really need to be very
well, it's actually, not like, it's dicamba.
Dicamba, I'm sorry.
And especially dicamba for dicamba beans. And usually what that is
it's
there's
Banville.
only, and it's not just specifically that, it's targeted, you can only use the certain types for the beans. There's different dicamba products, but you can only use the specifics. But yeah, there is dicamba. I haven't heard anything here locally that's been a damage. I had the state inspector talked to her a couple weeks ago. She had a case over in Clark County she had to go to. While I was here in the meeting, got a text and so I wanted to know what this weed soup's up in Roberts County name was, an address, and so she has to contact him. There must be a drift complaint probably with dicamba. And so we usually get targeted right away from the state inspectors because we're alongside doing roadside, so we always are right away. They get hold of us wanting our records and so for it. So
Do we spray any dicamba?
I have dicamba. I have sprayed a little bit in some grass for some certain weeds, but it's used very, very minimal. I think it's been 2 years now since I've had to use dicamba.
So what is the concern? Health issue?
Oh, it drifts very easily. It's a product that will, you can spray it, and actually if the conditions are right, it'll actually move. I mean,
it'll move up to 2 miles and so on. And a lot what it is we have there's just this last year there's dicamba beans. Basically, you can treat it with dicamba, but you might have a neighbor that treating this has Roundup Ready beans and no dicamba beans. And what's happening is there's some issues of drifts going on them or floating in the air and getting it. I do know, like I said, I believe it's Missouri and Arkansas that has now banned it. I would not be surprised that next year a lot of states will have it banned.
They're rewriting all the labels to try to limit some of the damage. But in the meantime, it's a very useful tool for the producers out there, and it's a lot of it sold.
Yeah, especially with a lot of the Roundup resistant water hemps and stuff like that. This product will take care of that. But like it is, it's a very product that you have to really watch for. I know there's regulations. You have to have 110 feet barrier to somebody else's that you can't spray it. So basically a lot of them sprayers are 80 to 100 foot wide. So basically along that edge, they can't be spraying along somebody's. They have to use another treatment along that field, and then the rest of the field can be done. And then wind directions and all that comes into play in effect.
So there's an art when it comes to spraying.
There is an art when it comes to spraying it.
When we were in the business, there's this one lady give us a bad time. We just drove by her place with our pickup, and we had it in the pickup, and she swore we killed her garden.
and that happens a lot. I get calls too that you drove by and you got my garden. Well, we didn't spray, but they seen the rig go by, or you might be spraying and you might have not have sprayed, probably an eighth a mile from their place. Well, I smell it, and you'll smell 2,4-D. I mean, you will smell it. I had one comment and stuff like that. Well, you can smell a skunk. Did you get sprayed? So that's the same philosophy.
Good analogy. Yeah. All right.
Anything else for Steve? All right, thank you for bringing
I'll
in
do-
your bond picture.
Okay, I'll do the budget. I even got the email, I got it on my phone.
Oh, you do?
All
Okay.
right.
Okay.
All right, yeah, let's do it.
What would we do without our phones, huh?
I'm
Good
worried
thing I
about his,
saved the email on this thing.
I'm worried about his pickup running out of gas here.
It's a car, so it's gonna save a little more gas.
All right, what page are we on?
I think it's 72. correct?
60.
Oh, okay. I guess I don't have the page number on this.
All right. Anybody find it yet?
Yep,
What page number?
60.
60. Thank you.
Well, to start out, I have a slight increase on the wages and stuff like that. I kind of want to start looking through, and I use comp time, and I always in the past have turned around and always figured total time, and so I had just a slight increase on that because of that. I also have a little bit cushion in case I do need somebody a part-time deal to help a month or so. I mean, this will allow me enough cushion for that. And then as far as the rest of the stuff, pretty well is relative to the wages and stuff like that. The insurance and stuff like that, I did not really increase it much. It had been pretty low. It's been low and kind of going through I guess back in, what would it be here, 2015, it was up there, but that was when, in between 15 and 16 is when we ended up turning around and got different insurance, and it had reduced quite a bit. You find anything? Oh, okay. All right. Into the expense category and so like that, everything is relatively about the same. There might be a couple things reduced. One of the things reduced is the supply. And some of that is due to the spot spraying that I've started to do. I don't need near the chemical supply. I'm going to keep it there just in case I do need to do a broadcast treatment. So, and dropping down into the auto and machinery deal, I do have budgeted there $32,000. I am looking at replacing the truck, the pickup, and so that. Primarily, one of the things is I'm looking at a crew cab. I was looking at extend cab. I was advised from a couple departments to actually just look at a crew cab, especially if you're going to be hauling a couple people in it. So I went basically off of Jim's, what his was for his vehicle, and he had sent me that information to him. So that's where I got that from, and I increased just a little bit just because of what the state vehicle rates are at. Yeah, the state bid rates are at. So, and then with it, I have about a $7,000, little over $7,000 increase over total budget for 2018 with all that. Which would be probably just under 4%.
About 3.5%.
All right. Any questions for Steve? Any questions?
That's good.
Seeing none, thanks, Steve. Thank you.
Steve.
We'll get that car under control.
Yeah, thanks.
You need a hammer to break the window to get in?
No, my daughter was getting a...
Can you hand me that mic?
What's that?
Spend the evening killing mosquitoes.
Yeah, well, they're coming now and shut in the office. So.
They're waiting for you.
All right, let's go on then. Item number 6, teleconference with the property owner. Do we have
I'll give you an update on that. That's not going to happen today. I did go and talk to Patrick. He brought a few points to my attention that I needed to go and discuss at City Hall with their variances and the process. And so I took the information, kind of what we're thinking, different options, and they are having a department head meeting this morning to discuss it when they looked at the property to see what's going on exactly, and it's a work in progress. So eventually we will have the property owner call in. He's not able to come to the meeting, work permitting him, he's not able to do that, but he does have a break around 9:30 in the mornings that we will be able to have him call in. So we can have a discussion with him.
Okay, burn ban, item number 7, discussion, possible action. I have not visited with Mr. Sutton. We have 10 sprinkles on the window, which is helpful. It's,
Sounds like the rest of the week there's a chance of rain, so several days.
I think we're all right at this point in time. I visited with some farmers and I got this, you know. They just shrugged the shoulders and they said, well, I've seen a couple of pretty good fires this past week. Kind of, it looked like it was maybe over in your neck of the woods over there, Charlie, but
Yeah.
we'll keep it on the agenda though, all right? All right, number 8 is action to approve computer equipment for the Register of Deeds office. And we heard- and last, and if you look, there's a supplement in your packet.
I'm the liaison, so I will make that motion that we approve that. It's very important that she does keep her computer up to date, and she will be using some of those that she's replacing to leave in her office for the public to be able to use, which will be a great asset.
We have a motion, is there a
Second.
second? Lee, was that you?
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Gable, second. Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right, now we're down to number 11 already. Action to approve, number 10, budget requests. We're all right there, aren't we?
Yeah.
Let's go to 11 then. Number 11, action to approve claims for payment, and that's in your packet also. There's a stapled together here. Cindy?
This is a little bit different format than you're used to seeing due to technical errors or technical problems, but it is technically the same list, it's just in a different format. I've highlighted a few out of the ordinary. On page 5, catastrophic legal fee, that is our third quarter payment to the South Dakota Association of County Commissioners for our participation in that pool. It's the catastrophic legal expense reimbursement program. On page 6, Dwayne's floor covering, $5,900 bill for replacing tile in the front offices of the Register of Deeds and the Clerk of Courts. The old tile was coming up in pieces due to frequent cleaning. Lower down on that page is our second payment of the year to the Wells Fargo Financial Leasing. That is for the design build project that we started in 2006, where we did a lot of updates to the lighting, heating, and cooling, and we were able to pay it off over a 15-year period. That's the project that we'll be finished paying for in February of 2020. It's in Milo's budget, correct. It's budgeted for Milo's, in Milo's budget.
You said that was 15 years, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
On page 7, there's a large bill out of the Director of Equalization budget to the Watertown City Finance Office, and that is for our participation in the pictometry project. That is also budgeted for. On page 13, we are our third quarter appropriation for the community health nurse office in the courthouse here. We pay that to the state of South Dakota. South Dakota, we have a contract with them for those services. On page 19, out of the highway budget, we have a claim to Butler Machinery for $196,615, and that is for one of our new motor graders. On page 20, we have our second quarter payment to the Beacon Center, and that comes directly from the divorce fees, marriage fees, and abuse fees that are collected by the Register of Deeds and the Clerk of Court's office, and we pay that to the Beacon Center.
Move to approve those claims.
Second.
Okay. I didn't think Cindy was done.
Yeah, I'm pretty much done.
All right.
Those were the highlights, unless anybody has any questions.
Okay, we have a motion by Hatton, a second by Van Duzen, is that correct?
Correct.
Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just if I could highlight a couple things. On the CLRP, the catastrophic legal expenses, I sit on that board, and just for people's information, that is really important. There are counties out there, if you have a murder trial or something big in your county going on, the county covers that, and there are counties getting reimbursed with that, tens of thousands of dollars in insurance money, so that's a pretty big
Cottington
deal.
County has benefited from participation in this program. We've had several high-profile cases.
Well worth the money.
Yes.
Cindy, question. Do all counties in the state participate in that?
It's not mandatory, so there may be some that don't participate. It's a voluntary program, so
Are you-
I don't know if all counties participate or not. I'm thinking maybe Minnehaha and Pennington do not participate because of the size of their counties. I
don't-
can't say for sure. Do you?
There weren't any claims from them.
Yeah,
There were bills from them for some of the jail expenses for other counties, like Lincoln participates, for example.
yeah.
So
I'm just not sure if Minnehaha and Pennington
I
are
don't know
in
that they
that
participate.
in
but,
that pool.
Yeah, they just weren't in the meeting I had yesterday.
because
They
they're so
Yeah.
much larger than the rest of us counties. But
Very good program.
Yeah, and then one other thing I wanted to highlight on page 13, the mental health expenditure for the Human Service Agency. I mean, that's a regular thing that provides some of the assistance in the jail that we've been. That's the ongoing expense, not
which one?
That's number 10. It's on page 13, second from the bottom.
That is actually our agency
Right.
contract that we pay quarterly.
Yeah, that's one
Yes.
I just want to highlight. That's
Yep.
one that's been going on that
Right,
that provides
that's an
somebody needs to
annual
be-
contract.
Right.
That and the one right below that is also for the halfway house. We also have a payment to Serenity Hills in this contract, and we pay that in one lump sum in the first quarter.
And those are just important things that help our jail function more efficiently, and so just for people's information. So,
All right, any other questions? Good comments. Clarifies a few things. All right, we have a motion and a
Yeah.
second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Let's go to number 12, action to approve automatic budget supplements.
We have one of those today. It's in the amount of $957.54. It will go back into the auditor's travel and conference budget. This is my reimbursement from the South Dakota Association of County Officials for my air flight travel to the NACO conference.
Thank you, and we have a personnel
I'll
change.
I'll
We need
make
a motion.
Oh,
to
yeah.
approve
Is there a
that.
motion?
I made that motion.
Motion by Hatton, second by Gable. Discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign, motion carries. Personnel changes.
We have 3 personnel changes, all from the Highway Department, all anniversary or step increases. Dave Heading is due his anniversary step increase to step 11, $23.19 an hour. He is considered maintenance 3 at the Highway Department. Lonnie Vogelsang is due his 6-month step increase to step 2, $18.04 an hour. And Randy Falvey is also due his 6-month increase to step 2, $18.14 an hour. The difference in those 2 employees, although they have the same position, is maintenance 2, is one qualifies for the 10 cents advanced degree program.
Motion by Waterman, second by Gable. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Travel requests, we have a couple of those. 3 of them, huh?
3, yep. The Director of Equalization, clerical staff, and office coordinator, the Ultra Software Users Meeting in Pierre. Register of Deeds Ann Rasmussen has a users meeting in Chamberlain. And Veteran Service Officer Al Jansen has a yearly training in Pierre.
I'll make a motion to
Motion by
approve.
Van Dusen, second by Waterman. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Mature business, any old business for the
Mr. Chairman, if I could just make a couple
Commissioner
comments.
Gable.
Yeah, just a reminder that next week, Tuesday afternoon, so that July the 25th, that's the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative 101, so of Angie Collington who's the state point of contact for that, leading some instruction there. So we've been sending invitations out to both the city, police department, obviously all the county agencies involved, HSA, the schools, so to get going with that. And just for people's information, we don't have a large juvenile population in our jail. It averages less than 2 people. However, the idea with this program is that you fully develop your community resources so that juvenile offenders have options so that they don't become adult offenders. So in the long run, it's something that would control or even reduce the growth in maybe the overall jail population over time. And then on August the 8th, just a reminder, that is the next Justice Advisory Committee meeting.
How are you seeing as far as a response to people that are going to attend this next Tuesday? Are you getting a good response?
People are responding. They don't always respond to my calendar invitations. I have to follow up some. So,
okay.
But yeah.
That's a week from today.
Yeah, and also that by the way, that does involve the unified judicial system. So Judge Means she's the point of contact for the UJS on that one. And this is UJS funded, by the way. So.
Location.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Extension Center, Classroom B. Thank you for asking that question.
Okay. Any new business? Any new business?
Mr. Chairman,
Just
as we're talking about the budget, I just wanted to put a few bugs in the ear. As we get thinking about justice facilities, and we still we'll need to be thinking about what we have our architect do. So he gave us a very good deal on the pre-design fees, but as we continue to work with him, there'll probably be some additional costs with that. And then also, if we want to look at some of the other options, one of the components of that, and we'll be talking about this at the Justice Advisory Committee, but one of the components is we break that problem down into what we asked the voters to approve. I mean, there were several aspects of it. There was the jail, obviously, but there was also court things. And so the question we need to ask ourselves, and this is again, Justice Advisory Committee will stew on this, is can we deal with some of those issues? Say, for example, courtroom, and does that mean that maybe we need to look at moving a county office someplace and look at space, money to take care of that, and is that something we could do reasonably within our annual budget? So that's, I don't want to alarm anybody or anything like that, but I just want to put the bug in your ear that might be something we need to talk about in the next month or so as we're working on the budget. So. Okay.
Anything else for new business? Any other new business? How about the open?
I have several events that there could be a quorum of commissioners at. One being this afternoon out at Glacial Lakes Energy from 3 to 6. They're having an open house and a ribbon cutting. Thursday evening at 6 p.m. First District picnic out at Memorial Park. And I guess that would be all that I have unless someone else has anything to add.
No, I don't. I do plan on attending the event this afternoon at Memorial Park, but I have nothing. Anyone else?
Just a quick question for Cindy. I know I've talked about this before during the meeting, but the hail damage claims and stuff, how is that being handled through the county's insurance carrier?
The
as far as the
departments are supposed to submit a list to me of all the vehicles that have been damaged, and then they are gathering estimates from repair places that they will turn in to me, and then I will send them all in at once. We only have to meet one deductible for all the vehicles damaged. So we have damage to the highway department, to Rick's vehicle, to Milo's vehicle, and to sheriff's vehicles so far.
Jim Sutton have damage?
And Jim Sutton. Jim Sutton, his is estimated at $3,000. It's a brand new vehicle this year.
Okay.
I think Brad told me that there were 6 of their vehicles that got damaged.
He's given me a list, yeah.
So
one deductible covers all the damage?
Yep, we've talked to the insurance company. We just need to make contact with the building insurance people. That's a separate policy for the ag building. So.
Okay.
One deductible, but it's $1 million?
No, I think it's $500.
$500.
$500, I believe.
Kind of like this friend of mine, he had a nice Corvette. He said he only had one payment left on it. That's the best part of it, but it was for $54,000. So you never know. Huh?
Thank you.
Anything else for the open? Mr. Satterley, anything, any reason for exec session? Anyone here?
I make a motion that we
We have a motion
adjourn.
by Hatton to adjourn, a second by
Second.
Van Duzen. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, people. We kind of jumped around today. I'm sorry about that, but we got her done.
I just have a question on, there was this accident over in Florence the other night on 448th Avenue. Was that a county road?
No. Apparently Florence is doing